Hi, I'm Lisa Chastain, and welcome to the Real Money Podcast. Some of the most successful women in the world hate talking about money, and that's exactly why we're here. My mission is to remove fear around finances by creating a simple, effective way to manage your money and build the financial freedom you deserve. As a keynote speaker, best-selling author, and passionate coach, I will be sharing my insights on overcoming money challenges, coaching women live on air, and interviewing some of the most accomplished women to learn from their experiences. So, say goodbye to fear, say goodbye to budgeting woes, and welcome to Real Money. What if the biggest battle in your life isn't here to break you, but to reveal your strength? Today's guest knows firsthand, after enduring a battle with her ex-husband, an over $100,000 divorce with over 300 court entries, Samantha Boss turned her pain into power, and she's helping thousands of women navigate high-conflict divorce. She's on a mission to fast-track other moms through their own high-conflict journeys, and if you're a mama and you're about to, or you think you want to, or you're in the middle of, or on the heels of a high-conflict divorce, this episode is for you. Meet Samantha. She's a certified divorce mediator and coach who specializes in helping moms protect their futures and their children's well-being. With a background in teaching and a personal story of surviving, and you're going to hear this story today, of surviving one of the most emotionally and legally intense divorces imaginable. Sam has spent the past decade guiding women through the do's and don'ts of divorce with kids. Her story is powerful. Her story is real. It's honest, it's open, and I'm so excited to introduce Sam to you, the Real Money community. Let's jump in, and at the end, we want to hear what you've learned, what you're going to do, how it's helped, and for all of you who are facing this as a reality today, we want you to hear that you're not alone. Let's jump in. Divorce and money go hand in hand.
Yes.
And we're just going to open the conversation wide open. And for my Real Money community, let's start with how it happened for you.
I went through a divorce that I thought was going to be, I don't know, I had blinders on. I thought it was going to be super easy. I thought it was going to be one of those, and I say this and people laugh, but I watched Young and the Restless growing up. I literally thought it would be trifold blue piece of paper walks in, I sign it, he signs it, and we're done. I didn't know it was going to be interrogatories, discoveries, mediation, psych evals, all these things that cost. You know, I didn't even know how much my first retainer was going to be. I went in and met with the lawyer, and she's like, okay, now I need this X amount of dollars. And I was like,
Whoa.
Where does she think I'm pulling this out of? Like, I want just a divorce. Like, why does it cost this much? There was just so many, like, hidden costs that I didn't know about. I was completely uneducated about divorce. I literally was blind to the whole concept of how to do it, how to file, what was the next step, the step after that. I just didn't know.
And are you the one that initiated the divorce?
Yes.
How long did you know before you initiated that you wanted a divorce?
I was married only 4 years, and I knew within the first year I was going to get divorced. And then, I was divorcing a sociopath and a narcissist, so I got drugged back in pretty easily with the whole promises and the hamster wheel of like happiness and love bombing and all that. And then I got pregnant, in year 2, and I thought, okay, well, this is on me. I gotta stick this out, and I just couldn't. So, it took me about 3 years to get the courage to finally, and then there was just a bottom line that I was like, if it gets to here, done. And it was actually when I started parenting different to protect my kids away from him and his emotions and moods. I was like, oh gosh, now my kids are looking at me like the bad guy. Like it's gone too far, Yeah. And so I left, and I filed, and I was just so uneducated about the whole thing, blind, oblivious, had no idea. And I didn't have any idea that my ex would go the route he went. I thought it would somehow be amicable. I don't know why I thought that, but I just thought there was no other choice.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, I said, listen, you don't know who you're going to meet on the other side of this divorce, because they're going to say what they need to say, and then you get through it. And so often they become a totally different person, and then it feels like war.
Unrecognizable. This man would talk to me. I thought we were doing somewhat okay. And then I get something from his lawyer, and I'm like, whoa, who said that? Like, when did that happen? It was just blatant lies. And it took me a very long time to realize he was not the person I married, and he was not the person I said I wanted a divorce to. He turned into a completely different person. And I had resistance to it. I kept thinking, if I just do this, maybe he'll go back to the way it was. If I just do this, he'll be kind to me. If I just do that, and like, I was blind. I mean, looking back on it, I was silly. I was uneducated. And I thought there would be this trigger that if I could just do something, I would get the old version of him back and we could just be somewhat decent co-parents. And we'd have that story where we do Christmas together and sit by each other. Pfft, no,
Nope.
not even close.
No, that was your commitment, not his.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So then walk us back before you have this successful business. It's your personal story that really inspired you to start the business. Yes?
Yes.
What were you doing before the divorce? Well, how was your life set up?
I was a high school teacher, so I was making 60 grand a year. I had a great job. It was great. I had summers off. I had same days as my kids off, but I was making 60 grand. And from where I was from, 60 grand, because I worked at a huge public school. So it paid more than the small town school, so I was teaching in a small town school when I started my marriage, and then I knew I wanted a divorce. So I moved to a higher salary. I planned it out. I did, I'll be honest. And so I took that job at the bigger city so that I could make $13,000 more per year. I'll never forget when they said, you're going to make that. I was like, that's $13,000 just by switching school district. Now with that school district was a lot more responsibility and bigger class size and stuff, but it was worth it. So I was making really good money as a high school teacher. And I liked the job, but I just knew there was something more for me because what I went through in my divorce process, I kept the tagline the whole time was like, it shouldn't be this hard.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be learning in real time. There should be somebody teaching you this stuff way ahead of it happening. This should be common conversation. This should not be a secret society until you're in it.
So here's what I know. So I got a divorce in 2017. I was with him for 16 years, but I started premeditating, if you will, years before I left him.
Yeah. I wish more people did.
Okay.
People come to me too late or way into the process, and everything's fixable. I mean, that's one thing I wanted to just say. Everything is fixable. I know it may not feel like it, but it is. I can fix any mistake. I can help you. We can recorrect and redirect everything, but I think a lot of people go into it with the false pretense that I did. Like, this will be easy. We both want this. Like, let's just do it for the kids and all that kind of stuff. And I think people have no idea about the finances. They have no idea about what parenting plans are. They don't know their options in their parenting plan of what they could be picking and all those things have consequences later when you're that single parent raising children.
Yeah.
What you walk away from financially because you're like, I just want the kids. And you walk away from this ass load of money, you're screwed later. And you're like, oh, well, crap, I really could have used that money. Like, there's just a lot of unknowns walking in. And if you don't have good direction from either a divorce coach or a lawyer or both, you're ill-advised. And you're just kind of like I was, like, what do you think, a lawyer who I'm paying? I think you should do this. Okay, sounds good. I didn't even know what my options were. Didn't even ask questions.
How much did your divorce cost you?
So you're making $13,000.
So you're making $73,000 a year.
I was making 60.
60. So the $13,000 raise was after. So it got you to, so let's call it, you're averaging $5,000 a month in income. How did you do that?
It wasn't pretty. So I did not move in with my parents, which in hindsight, I couldn't because my sister was already there, but I had this big pride issue. I had to take blame for it myself because I married him, so in my mind, I couldn't ask for help. So I found this really cheap house, went and bought it. And with my salary, I could afford the house. What I couldn't afford was the new car I went and got because I didn't want to be a minivan mom anymore because I was divorcing, And what I couldn't afford was all the groceries for the house and all the upkeep of the house. And I got broke really fast because then I added that lawyer monthly bill to that as well.
Yep.
And it was robbing Peter and paying Paul. It was debt. It was side job here. Who needs help here? I'll sell that for $5. Thank you very much. Like, it was disturbing. That's how I just got behind. I gave a retainer. My parents cashed in a retirement. I maxed out credit cards. I went to credit unions and got 7% interest loans. Like, it was disgusting. And I got divorced and then didn't pay off my divorce till 10 years after.
Your story is so relatable. And on the financial side, I get women in my office in tears in the middle or after the wake of the divorce with so much debt. They're so ashamed. They can't believe it. And I'm like, listen, For so many reasons, this happened. And what's so important is that you don't shame yourself and guilt yourself and make yourself wrong for it because you did what you had to do. And I think a lot of that, and I'd love to hear your thought on it, is the pain. Because divorces are so painful. And then we go out and get the new car or we get whatever to be able to feel better in so many ways and get into this new life. And then it's a snowball from there.
It was a great snowball. And I think a lot of it was I was scared to admit that I had messed up. I was scared to admit I didn't know what I was doing. You know, people would say, oh, you're divorcing. How you doing? I was Miss Fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. My mom's like, how are your finances? Fine. They were not fine. Nothing about my story was fine. But I was so stubborn because I didn't want to admit that I picked a bad guy and it fell really fast and it broke up really fast. And I got these 2 kids now. And now I bought this house, which, you know, it was 900 square feet. It was super small, super cute, perfect, but I didn't need the new car. I didn't need all the other stuff inside, you know, and I didn't calculate all that in. And, you know, 60 grand sounds like a lot on a teacher's salary. You know, 5 grand before taxes sounds like a lot, but then once you take out taxes and your medical insurance and then you have groceries and I was scared to death of like, it's going to run out. And there's not going to be another credit card that will give me money. And there's not going to be another credit union my credit score will be so low because I have money coming out all over the place. And I can't go to my parents and have them cash in another retirement. I mean, they're working class people. Like, it was so shameful but then the other side of it was, but I can't stay, you know, I can't stay married to him. So like, you know, I have to do this. And I kept thinking like, and my mom kept telling me, Sam, there's a reason you're going through this. There's going to be a reason. And back then, I mean, this was 20 years ago. Back then I'm like, well, I'd love to know what his plan is, Mom. Like, if he could tap me on the shoulder, I'm ready to listen. Like, you know, like, why is he having me go through this? And she's like, I don't know, Sam, but she's like, it'll all come to the way it's supposed to come. You know, it'll all fall how it's supposed to fall. And I, you know, struggle bus, you know, and I jumped into MLMs. And as soon as I did that, I got that side gig going. I was like, oh, okay, I got breathing room. Like, nothing was paid off yet, but I at least have like head above water. We're eating all now. We're all eating at meals. You know, we can buy some clothes. We got toiletries. That was the first step. And then, you know, getting the MLM getting bigger. And then I started dabbling in this job. And then it was like, okay, I'm feeding that fire a little bit, you know, and then it slowly just built and built and built. And I met my husband now, and then it just kind of took off. But it was a struggle. And I was just so scared to ask for help because I felt like it was my fault. I felt like I put myself in this spot. I got to get myself out. I'm 30 some years old. I dug this hole. I got to get myself out. And that's just a ridiculous mindset because I came from a good family who loved and adored me and would have helped out had I said, white flag. I surrender. I need assistance, but I kept my mouth shut and just, I'm fine. I was not fine. I was not fine at all.
Not everybody has the ability to go to the family.
Right.
But the fact that you didn't also says a lot about you. Being married to a narcissist, they by nature make people feel like they're crazy.
Yes.
And that's a story for so many women that come to me and I know you work with where they feel like they're the crazy ones.
Yeah.
And that they don't feel like they're in the right for getting the divorce. And then women tend to take on all of the responsibility. Like it's all my fault. I didn't work hard enough. And then therefore I should punish myself or take the burden of this. And what I've experienced, I'd love for you to share with the hundreds and thousands of women that you've worked with to this point, is that a lot of women take the financial responsibility, but not in having all the money. They just let it go. They just leave it because they're like, listen, I'm responsible for this. I'm going to go. He can take the house. He can take everything. They don't fight for what's theirs. Why is that?
I think it's the mental state. Like I talk about when you're married and it's rough, you're in this mental state of like, gosh, I just want out. I just want out. I want to be a single mom on my own. I know I can do this. But there's this middle phase where our brain is like putty and anybody can mold it at any time. And you know who the biggest, loudest voice of molding is? That narcissist that you're trying to leave. And so while you're going through the stepping stage to get to this awesome, single, confident mom over here, you go through this moldable phase where anybody in your life can mold you into something. And they're the loudest. They're in there screaming, you know, you're a piece of crap. You're a horrible mother. I'm going to take everything from you. You don't deserve any of this. You're the reason the family, you don't have the white picket fence. And you're just like, oh my gosh. And so your number one priority, because we're childbearing people, is we say, children. If I can just leave with the children, I'm fine. I will make it work. And so we walk away from the home because he's telling us. The narcissist is screaming at you saying, you will have nothing. I'm going to take the kids. You're not going to have a dime. You're not going to have your family. And we, because we're putty right now and have no self-worth right now, because we're not there yet. We're not up to this confident, strong badass. We're putty. We're like, we believe it. And we think, okay, well, the only thing I need to do is protect my kids. Just give me my kids and you can have it all. And we trade kids for money. And because we think that's our only thing that we're going to win, because for whatever reason, we believe him and we don't believe our lawyers, or we don't believe the judge, or we're so warped in the head at that moment. We're going to get out of it. But right now we're in trauma response.
Yep.
And so we're responding to his threats. And so as mama bears, we'll like, okay, take it all, just shut up and give me the kids. And we fall for that. You know, and I think that's a big mistake financially, but also there's nothing saying in a year from now, he couldn't come back and say, okay, now I want the kids.
Right.
There's nothing protecting you from that. So while you're over here signing off retirements, not that you don't want child support, and you don't want the house, and you don't want the equity and all this.
Gone.
He's like, okay, in a year, 18 months from now, I'm going to go file for the kids and have custody. Now I have 50-50, and I didn't have to give her any of that stuff that she was rightfully entitled to. Yeah. And I think that's where most women, when you're in this muddy phase and you're being molded, that's why you have to have a divorce coach, an attorney, a financial person in your life that can say, whoa, this is a business decision. Take your emotions out of it. And mathematically, here's what we need to be doing.
That's right.
Here's your rights. People. Yeah. We have to have people in our circle that can give us the good advice, not our ex who's threatening us with what to do, because we're scared. We're scared. Yeah. We're not over here yet. We're not into that confident phase yet.
Yeah. Another fear that I hear about with moms specifically, I wore my mama gear today. We're just going to speak into mamas today and love on them. And because the kids are the hardest part of this equation, is that we love our kids. We don't want to lose our kids. We want to protect our kids. And then we realize we're in a relationship with a psycho. And how do you navigate that? I, for a long time, was afraid that my ex-husband would commit suicide.
Yes.
If I left him. That was the thinking.
Say that.
Yeah.
They threaten that if you leave them, they'll hurt themselves. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to hurt my kids.
Right.
To be that, to create that. And so a lot of women stay for that reason, or then they don't rock the boat at all with the ex because they're afraid of the emotional carnage that's going to come around to their kids.
Yes. And those people also tell their children that. I know that my daughter got told that from the moment I left at a very young age. If you guys leave me too, I'll have no choice but to, end my life. And she carried that with her until the day, she decided to leave at 16. And shortly thereafter that, she looked at me and she said, well, why is dad still here? And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, he had told me every day that if I left him, he would do that. And I'm like, oh, kiddo, he was telling you that to keep you there. Believe me, I've heard it too, and I had no idea that kind of burden was put on her at such a young age that she felt obligated to stay and care for him until it was just too much for her to do anymore. And then she left as well. But yeah, I think a lot of women are fearful they don't know what this part of their life will look like, away from them. Because they've been isolated from their families. The narcissist does a great job of pushing you away from everybody. And then when you decide to leave, you have to quickly rebuild those relationships if those people will take you back from all the damage that they've caused, right? And so you have to be crazy, to try to go out on this tangent to divorce these people because they have trapped you into this life of just, you have nobody, you have no money, you don't have access to things. You are scavenging to get this divorce together. And that's the story of most of my clients who are in a high conflict divorce, is this person has trapped them into something, forbidden them to know anything about finances. And now they're leaving and they're just threats start from day one.
Yep.
They had sex Tuesday. She says divorce on Thursday. He's wanting her out. End of life by Friday.
That's it.
I'm just like, wow. Every woman that comes to us, they're like, how did he just turn like that?
Yep.
That's maybe who he always was. And maybe that was a mask that he was wearing the whole time, So it's very scary, very scary.
So let's lean into that and let's talk to the woman who's listening to this, who's real time in the middle of all this shit. Mm-hmm. You're 20 years removed from it. I'm nearly a decade removed from it. Mm-hmm. And there's so much that my ex-husband has never paid child support. Mm-hmm. There's so much that I just was like, is it worth the fight?
Right.
At the end of the day, thankfully, I was the one in control of all the finances. So when I left, I knew exactly how to, for lack of a better term, manipulate it so that I came out on top financially.
Right. Right.
But not, and this is switched in the situation that you were in. Mm-hmm. Let's talk to this woman. What does she need to know right now that she may not know that's going to help her navigate this without all of the, well, you can't, there's going to be stress. There's going to be things that happen. But what does she have to know?
I think first and foremost, just start being really observant. If you're still in the household and you're still married, start being observant. Start watching the mail, seeing where the inbox is, what's in the inbox if you have access to a family iPad or something, but really watching that mail and start taking inventory. What do you own? Hey, by the way, who has our car loan? Who's that with? Just start gathering, investigating into your own life. Hey, how much do we have left on the house? Casual conversations. See if you can find out. Call places. Is your name on bank accounts? Get some numbers. So I would say start investigating and being aware, looking around, taking videos, pictures of all of your property and personal items, and really just starting to document what's happening in real life. Where's the money coming from? How's it go out? What things are you paying for? What things is he paying for? Just kind of document finances would be my first thing. The other thing would be building your team. Okay. You got to start, and I'm not saying a big team. I'm not saying tell your friends. I'm not saying tell a lot of your family, because you all know you have like moles, in your life that'll slowly get back to him. I have clients whose own mothers have turned on them and went to the husband and said, she's getting ready to leave you. No way. So figure out who you can trust in your circle, or you hire professionals, divorce coaches, financial people to really say, okay, show me what you've gathered. Let's see what we still need. You can do so many things before you say the D word, getting your ducks in a row before you say, hey, I want a divorce, because you have no idea what they're going to do, but you know what you're doing until you say those things. So pre-plan. And again, that may sound malicious or vindictive, or to me, it's strategy.
I
if
agree.
you know you're out, then plan for it. If you know you're going to run a marathon in December, I'm not starting to run in December. Yeah. I'm going to plan for it. This is the same thing. This is just a different type of marathon. You got to prepare for this shit, or it's not for the weak, So I would say get documentation and build your team. Start getting an education would be my third thing. You got to know, and this is the kind of going back to the lead in here. I thought I was filing for divorce to get a divorce. I thought that's what the intent was. The intent actually is I'm filing for a divorce to rip up my marriage certificate, but I'm getting a parenting plan and a financial affidavit at the end. Yeah. I'm actually filing to get paperwork at the end. And I think too many of us think we're going for a divorce. That's just like the noun of it. The verb of it is paperwork, and how are you living your life, and where's the money being split? Like the title is not it. The actual physical product is what you should be educated about. And that's what I do. I educate people. I don't do finances. That's your category, but I definitely help people with the ins and outs of like, what is a parenting plan? How do I need one? How should it be written? And really, like, especially in this type of a divorce where you are not going to be kumbaya, you are not going to be best friends. Yeah. And if you do, great. If things, everybody flips an attitude and changes, great, put that parenting plan on the shelf and never have to need it. But if I do need it, I sure as hell want that thing to be thorough and detailed. Yeah. And I think that's what people need to realize. You're not going after a divorce. You're going after a parenting plan and a financial package. Period. That's the end result of every divorce with children.
That's right.
And people don't know that.
No, they don't, because they think they just want out.
I just want to be done with them. Newsflash, Stacy.
If you have kids with them,
it's not going to change. Now you just have no control over anything because you're not married, but you're still in the same shit show with that person. You're still having to talk with them. You're still having to engage. You're still at the same events. You're still going. Your life is still the same. And I was that person too. Like, if I could just get divorced from him, my life would be so much easier. Said no one. No, like that's not how that works.
It's not how that works. And so let's talk about the kids then, because a parenting plan doesn't sound like, and we haven't had this conversation, so I really want to lean into this, is it doesn't sound like a parenting plan is the same thing as custody. There's more that goes into it, or is it the same thing?
And again, I think this is the lack of education that a lot of moms have, Lisa, is they think that like, well, as long as I have visitation and it says that I have visitation, I'm good. Or I have legal custody, I'm good. Okay, that's cool too, Stacy. But what about, holidays, and what about vacations, and what about your medical plan, and what about extracurriculars, and what about if you want to, get your kid baptized, like, what are we doing with vaccinations? Like all these things. And you're like, what? I just want my kids. Okay. But you have to now, especially in 2025, when this is being recorded, everybody's leaning towards the joint. everybody wants equal partnership and everything. So now we're into this big joint venture, which gets really muddy really fast because now the person that you said you wanted to divorce hates your guts. And now you're stuck still working with them through every major decision for your child. If your child's 3, you got 16, 15 more years of working with this person every time a major decision pops up. So if your parenting plan doesn't list that major decision, you're still back in this toxic relationship engaging with your ex all the time. And so it's just this vicious thing of, I think people, again, lack of education. That's why I teach a master class on this, is because I want people to, even before they go to an attorney, my ideal client would be somebody that's listening to this in her car or closet. And she's like, gosh, I've wanted to leave for like months. And this is for me. I clicked on this for a reason. I want her to go get my master class, and I want her to learn everything possible about a parenting plan. Because here's why. I want her to take that information so she feels really well versed and educated when she goes and interviews lawyers. So she knows what to ask for. Hey, I heard something about right of first refusal. Hey, I heard that Christmas we could do this. I want her to feel well versed. I know in the consultations I did all those decades ago with my attorney, I knew nothing. I sat down, she talked a lot. I went, sounds great. I had no questions because I didn't know what to ask. I didn't know what I was going for.
Do you think that's why it cost you over $100,000?
That's a good question. I would say 50-50. I would say half of it was because I was lack of education, and half of it was because I wouldn't accept that I was in a high conflict divorce, and I kept resisting it. I kept trying to, let's go to mediation. Let's try that, even though it's never worked. You know, we are not going to be that couple that can't figure this out. I was resistant to just, I could not give up on we're going to co-parent. And co-parenting is not for everyone. Parallel parenting is what most of us will do, especially if not at the beginning. Okay, great. You're the kumbaya couple listening. I love that for you. Go buy a lottery ticket. But as soon as one of you starts dating, the wheels on that fucking get along bus is going to fall off real quick.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to need a parenting plan that has detail. You know, like everybody has these, we're going to get along. We're still going to sit by. That's great for you. But what about when he starts dating and she doesn't like your ass?
Oh, yeah.
Guess who's not sitting by each other anymore?
Nope.
The 3 of you. You know, that's so like have a plan for that. What does that look like? And again, I know sometimes when people hear me, they're probably like, gosh, she's so negative. This is reality.
It's real. It's real.
It's reality. You are not always going to be at the same page of life on the same journey raising your child. You better have really good paperwork to protect you. Otherwise, the only choice is either to hire attorneys or talk to your ex.
That's right.
Those are your only 2 choices to get anything resolved. Good luck with that. You know, where I'd rather have a really good parenting plan that gets my kid all the way to 18. And again, it might not be the best choices in there. You know, if I have a 3-year-old that I'm helping a couple, you know, with their parenting plan, and they're like, Sam, what do we pick for 7 and 9 and all these things? And my kids are grown. So I have kind of some hindsight and some great advice and some, man, I wish I would have prioritized this over this. And so they listen, and sometimes they do. But I'm like, hey, at least picking a decision, I know it's done. And I don't have to call him or work with my lawyer again. That it might not be the best decision. I'm like, man, I kind of have hindsight on that one, but at least it is a decision, right? Versus if there's nothing written down, you're guaranteed to talk to your ex or go to your lawyer again to get it wrote down.
Yeah, and there are so many things. So there's the parenting plan, which is in the divorce decree, which is upheld in the court of law if needed. That's where everybody's going to go first if you end up back in a courtroom. And it's there, it's agreed upon, it's signed. And then there are all the things that you have no idea that could come your way that you cannot control. So for example, in my divorce decree and my parenting plan, we had holidays and Mother's Day and Father's Day all mapped out. And then I get a call on Mother's Day and my son says, Mom, I want to stay with Dad. How did that happen? Because Dad manipulated him. And Dad was like, oh, we're going to go do this great thing on Mother's Day. And he had a girlfriend and fuck. Because we had the plan. And that there's still going to be things that you have to navigate, which is why I love your world, because it's bringing women together. No one knows what you're going through as a divorcing mom like a divorcing mom. No one will get it in the same way that other women get it. So community is important there too.
Yeah, people will look at you, you know, if I told some of the stories to my new neighbors that I just moved in with a year ago, they would look at me jaw dropped and be like, how is that a Dateline special episode? No, that was my life for 10 years. You know, people that are married, people that have never had a narcissist in their life, again, go buy a lottery ticket. Just look at our stories like, No way did someone treat you that bad. Sure as shit they did on a Tuesday and a Thursday, most times Saturdays. And they don't get it. And so being in a community like the next chapter that we've created gives people an opportunity to have a community to just blast a question or, hey, a stress, or, hey, my kid just called and said he doesn't want to come. Talk me off the ledge real quick.
Right.
Boom. Women are like, happened to me yesterday. Here's what I did. I feel for you, empathize, validation, just all these things, or to get trainings. Like we give a training every Monday. This could be about fitness. We have financial experts come in. We have Reiki coaches come in, a discipline, how to discipline your child. We have a tapping person to come in to teach us how to cope and tap ourselves to death to where our kids can learn. We teach them everything to get into that badass, confident self, single parent, And so that community is something, both Leah and I wish we would have had. My business partner, Leah, she's the soft, sensitive divorce recovery healing coach, and I'm the parenting plan guru. And so together we just I help you through your divorce, and she's like the recovery program. And we just help women feel supported, because you might not have that family that we spoke about before. You might not be able to hire an independent divorce coach. Go share 2 divorce coaches with other women and get the best out of us. And there's 2 Q&As a month, which is awesome because we get to see the women on the screen. They get to see each other. They get to hear personal questions. And then she's sitting there going, oh my gosh, that was me 2 days ago. Like that happened to me too. And then you just don't feel so bad. I mean, I sat in my house for 10 years thinking that like, no one has a clue what I'm going through because I'm not telling anyone because it's super, super shameful.
No one knows.
And it's embarrassing that I picked somebody that's treating me this horribly so easily. Like he slept well at night. And so for 10 years, I felt isolated, alone. I used alcohol to cope. I made piss poor decisions. I wrapped myself around people that I look now like, how the fuck did I hang out with those people? Like I just made piss poor decisions because I was so scared of saying, I'm struggling. Yeah. I have no idea what I'm doing and I need assistance. Like I'm drowning over here.
What would have been different had you raised your hand? Do you think, or do you know?
Oh gosh. If I would have raised my hand, I know there were probably been 10 people that would have come and helped, but I this facade that I had, it was going too strong and I couldn't let it down. But who was watching it down the whole time? My kids. My kids knew that I was struggling. My kids felt that they saw the real me. They saw the raw version. And we've had to work through a lot of therapy and a lot of forgiveness to get where we are now in our relationship. My kids are awesome and they've had a lot of therapy, but my kids saw me crying and upset and emotionally dysregulated and screaming for no reason. I just told the garbage bag story. Like I opened mail, and back then, again, it was snail mail. Divorce stuff would come in the mail, big, thick envelope, and I'd be dumb enough to open it right when I got home from work. And so I read it, emotionally dysregulated. I'm wanting to smoke and drink, but I can't because my kids are there. Yep. So then I'm pissed. And the garbage sack wouldn't get in the garbage. And I'm over there shaking the sack and like trying to put it in. And I'm fighting the garbage can. And then my kid comes over to throw something away. And I lost my mind. Yep. And I'm just screaming at my kid, can't you see that I'm trying to do this? Get the hell away from me. My kid's like 4, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs about a garbage sack to a 4-year-old. And looking back on that now, so ridiculous. I didn't have coping skills. I didn't have calming skills. I didn't have the discipline not to open the fucking mail. I didn't have the discipline to call somebody over to say, hey, I opened up something. I'm bothered. I'm triggered. Can you sit with me? Can you help me with the kids? Hey, mom. My mom would have came in 3 seconds. But the stubbornness in me couldn't call her to say, I'm struggling. Because I picked this man. I had so much attachment to that whole thing. Through therapy, I've let it go now. But yeah, I mean, had I raised my hand, I wouldn't have the business I have today. But I think I was supposed to go through that so that I could help hundreds of thousands of women now. Which is relate and know that screaming at your kids, it is part of it, but you got to recognize it and go get help.
That's right.
And not keep doing it.
That's right. I agree. So that's so valuable. It's so great. Let's shift gears and talk about the things, because with money, it's a huge trigger. You're already looking at dividing assets. You're already looking at selling homes. You're already looking at making all these financial decisions, which you've never had to make before, never found yourself in this position. But what are the things that women cannot afford to not invest in? What are the what do they have to invest in order to get to the other side of this quicker, healthier, all the things, more balanced?
Well, I think if we're talking about her as a woman, obviously therapy, obviously self-care, obviously, quality time with people that will give you quality back. Divorce coach, if you can't do just the therapist, do a divorce coach, a financial advisor, just to say, hey, you might have debt, but here's how we're going to break it down. Here's how we're going to get ahead of it. Here's what we're going to tackle. But the other thing is like really making sure in those packages, in your financial package, is making sure you're not looking at just the tunnel vision of what's happening right now. Yes, you're getting asked about equity in a home and a pension and things like that. But in your parenting plan, who is paying for insurance for your child for the duration of their childhood? Who is going to cover those extracurriculars? Who is getting the braces bill? Who is helping with the car and car insurance and college? And like, there are financial things that aren't in this tunnel during the divorce that you're like, okay, my kid's 4. I'm focused on 4. Okay, but 14 is really expensive.
Yeah, it
They're
is.
starting high school. Like shoes are $150. Like start
Camp is
thinking about
expensive,
that.
yeah.
Right. So I think it's like spend the quality time. I just did a TikTok this morning about making sure you have quality, like self-care is only 2% of your day, 30 minutes. Like I didn't do any of that. I didn't do any of that. I was like, when will my kids go to bed so I can sneak into the garage and have a smoke?
That's right.
Like that was my self-care. I mean, that was it. Like that was pathetic, versus podcasts and walking with a weighted vest or hell, sleep. I mean, good Lord, sleep would have been a good option. I wasn't doing that either. Like, I think it's like we put ourselves through hell through this divorce and our bodies through hell at the same time. And I'm telling you, guess who sees you every day? Your kids. And they're watching. Mom doesn't cope well. Mom secretly smokes in the garage. Like my kids knew that. And I was like oblivious to think they don't know. I mean, come on. Like,
Yeah.
But that was what I needed, I thought, heaven forbid I get a hug, like those TikToks that I was like, I probably needed a hug, but instead I smoked a pack of cigarettes. It was like, I didn't know what any of the coping skills were though.
No.
Nobody's out there talking about self-care and self-love in the early 2000s. It was like, you want a divorce, go get a lawyer. That was the only advice I ever got. Get a good lawyer. Okay. What's the measurable thing of good here? I didn't know what a narcissist was. I didn't know what high conflict divorce was. I didn't know what parallel parenting was. I didn't know anything, and when he started to get bad, my self-care just went to nothing. And then it just when your body's down, you're going to react poorly. So, I mean, investing in yourself, because that's the only thing you can control in all of this. You're not going to control how your ex reacts, counsel reacts. You can even control how your attorney acts sometimes. But what you can control is how your body feels and how you're taking care of yourself and what coping skills do you have. If drinking is your number one pick of like, I have to have a couple beers to fall asleep. Okay, sister, we got to give you something else because that's going to escalate real quick because this divorce ain't going to get easier. Right. Yeah. So I wish I would have known that kind of stuff and I didn't. I was oblivious.
Well, that's amazing. Not amazing that you didn't know it, but amazing that you've turned your story into purpose.
Right.
And women, we get to advocate for ourselves. We get to share the real thing. We get to not hide in our closets anymore.
Right.
And I'm so grateful that you have this amazing community where you're teaching real tangible ways to navigate the divorce.
Right.
First and foremost, starting by taking care of yourself, making a small investment. It's not a lot. Like your membership's $97 a month.
Yeah. The membership is $97. My master class is affordable too. It's only $97. I mean, you get a workbook, like the educational piece. I don't know about you, but when I went to my attorney, I was sitting there with a master's degree as well. And I was sitting there feeling really dumb because she was using words and phrases I'd never heard before. But I sat there and went, I was like Nancy Reagan. Yep. Sounds good. I have no idea what she said. No idea, but I said yes to everything because she had shoulder pads and she had all these degrees in the background. And, she had high heels on and I was like, surely she knows her shit, right? And I just said yes to everything. And that did not do me any favors. And I think my clients, once they come and get an education about what is divorce and what will I get at the end, they're like, yeah, my attorney was impressed that I knew the lingo and I knew what to ask for. And I already knew what holiday schedule I wanted. And I knew how many vacations and why I wanted that is my hope and dream for everybody going through divorce, that you might not win everything, but at least you're going to know what you lost. I didn't even know what I lost. I didn't even know. I didn't know until I needed it. And I was like, oh, that's not included. We didn't put that in there. Like, oh, great. What do? Oh, I have to call my lawyer again. Oh, that's convenient.
More money. Yeah.
More money. Yeah.
This conversation can go on and on.
Hours.
And I know that you're going to get a great response from the show. People are going to want to get to know you more. I'll end the show here. No one gets married thinking that they're going to get a divorce.
Preach.
we get married with hope and for all kinds of reasons. And for me, I know going through my divorce, making the decision was the hardest to even just decide, because it came with so much shame and guilt and sad. I was sad because I didn't marry him to divorce him.
Right.
And so for the woman listening to this today, you are not alone. You are not powerless. You are not crazy. You are not crazy.
Nope.
And there are people in the world like Sam and like me who want to validate how you're feeling and help you get to the other side of this with as little damage as humanly possible. We can't control everything, but you're definitely not alone. Right. Sam, what would you like to say to the listener? Final words.
I would say everything that you just said, and just your number one relationship is with yourself and your children. Those two relationships, I'm telling you, focus there as you're going through this, as you're starting this, as you're thinking about this. Check in with your kids more. Learn your love languages of your children. Validate your kids. Look at your kids in the eye. Put your freaking phone down. Like, work on your relationships with your kids, because that high conflict person is going to try to stop that relationship, get in between that relationship. And just know that an unbreakable bond with your child, they can't do anything about that. They can try, but they won't be able to stop an unbreakable bond that you have with your child. So don't get distracted with the chaos and with all the fires that your ex is going to start firing up for you to come look at. Your relationship with yourself, how you feel about yourself, and your relationship with your child are the two most important relationships you will ever have, because they're lifelong. Yeah. They're the whole duration of your life, you will have a relationship with your child, but you got to work at it. It's not a given. You have to put effort in, and you have to validate and play with those kids and know those kids, not their favorite color, who's their best friend. What thing on the playground do they run to every single time you take them to the park? Like, know everything about your kid. You will be fine.
Pour into them, pour into yourself.
Absolutely.
Join a community like Sam's. Where can they find you?
The Ugly Truth of Divorce, or you can just go to samandleah.com. Everything is there, from the membership that we talked about to the masterclass that we talked about, Sam and Leah. And you'll find anything that you possibly need. If you want just divorce recovery help, one-on-one, Leah's your girl. If you want divorce help, I'm your girl. If you just want support, the TNC, the next chapter, is the community for you, you know? And I say anybody, just start in the next chapter, and then we can always help you with services after that. But get with other women to just lift you up. You never know. You may find a bestie in that group. We have a lot of women that have paired off and become friends and are meeting up with each other and just sharing stories. Their kids are all the same age, and they may live locally and they didn't even know it. Like, it's a great, great private community. I mean, you got to get in. So it's a great spot to be.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for the work that you're doing. All of the ways that people can get a hold of you and get into your world will be in the show notes.
Okay.
Thank you for spending time with the Real Money community, and thanks for putting your heart into the work that you do.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to Real Money. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and let us know what you love about the show. Your feedback is invaluable as we continue to empower women to take control of their financial lives. Until next time, keep thriving, and remember, you deserve real money.